running of Il Lombardia. It is a monument, and it's the last of the season. 260 kilometres on a slightly amended course today, running from Como to Bergamo. Sounds like a reverse, you might say. Well, it's exactly the opposite direction than we've had for the last 3 years. So starting off at Lecco, heading for Bergamo today. And as you can see, thank heaven, a change of weather greeting the change of course. Well, this morning as we started off, the high cloud here, just a few wispy greys, and they have disappeared. Talking about wispy greys, if you're talking about hares, then Cadel Evans may well have a few, and he's going to be bidding a fond farewell to Europe on this very day. The great man is retiring. He's got a lot of racing still to do, but not competitively in Europe. Some more down under, I'll be bound, but this is one heck of a course, as you can see. Heading off from Como at the start, close to the lake, which has that familiar three-legged star, you might say. And then heading down to a whole series of climbs today. The last 112 kilometers or so are where the real action begins, after the Colle de Pasta, and then a whole sequence of really nasty tests, kicking up, maxing at well over 10%, some of them, approaching the 15% marker when we get to the Gonda. And some cracking climbs still in the offing, with the Berbeno with that 10% hit coming about 26 kilometers from the end, and then a last kick just peaking 3.4 kilometers from the line in Bergamo with the cobbles. Nasty, nasty stuff. There it is. That's the route that Cadel takes on for the last time here in Europe. So let's check out what kind of terrain we are dealing with. That was the route. ...260 kilometres then. It's amended slightly due to roadworks, so nothing serious. In fact, it's just coming off the Madonna di Gizzalo, which they've already completed. We do have a breakaway, incidentally. More on that in just a few moments' time when Dan Lloyd will join us. But that's it, 260 k's, and you can see just how lumpy it is in the latter part of today's run. So, glorious, glorious backdrop. It doesn't get much better than Lake Como. I honeymooned there. Have I told you that? So, Como a go-go, time to sign on this morning. Slight little chill in the air. You can see from the overcoats being worn by everybody. It has warmed up, and we're warming up to the task, as were just about everybody out here. Farkowski, incidentally, on hand with his rainbow jersey. Said he can't quite believe it at the moment. And Cadel. Oh, Cadel. Bless him. We'll be speaking to him a lot later on. For now, he's keeping himself to himself. Here's Parito. He says, what about the new route? What's up for today? Well, many important riders today of all types, and this means that we're going to have to do a lot of thinking out there. Gives you a lot to consider.
Your first race in the rainbow jersey, how does it feel?
It's incredible, you know. I went out from the bus, and people start to scream my name. They start to take autographs and take pictures, and it's just incredible, you know. I thought, you know, I said before, I don't believe that I'm world champion. Now it's like, you know, I believe it more, and that's incredible, you know. Here in Lombardia, it's a special moment to start for the first time in the rainbow jersey. So yeah, I will try to enjoy this race.
And it's a race you've never finished before. What can you do?
Oh yeah, I didn't finish, you know. It's I think it's one of the toughest races, one of the toughest classics during the season. So of course, not many guys are able to finish, but of course I'm really motivated with rainbow jersey to show my skills to try to go for the best results.
Alberto, hoy puedes esperar,
then, what's your plans for today? Will you wait until the last kilometres, or will you attack from far out? We still don't know exactly. It depends on all the other riders, of course, and naturally we will just react accordingly, he says. Well, he's just considering that anything can happen here, and you basically have to amend your strategy whenever you can.
Alejandro, doble motivación.
Valverde starting off as one of the other favourites today. The question is, I guess you'll have a double motivation, win the race, get ahead of Contador, and indeed beat the world champion. Can you do this? He says, yeah, that's exactly why we're here. A lot at stake today. Not perhaps too much for Michael Kwiatkowski, but certainly for the UCI rankings. And it's something, it's a table that's led at the moment by Alberto Contador by 14 points ahead of Alejandro Valverde. And so whichever finishes ahead of the other is likely to take that UCI title. And it's bigger news than you think. It's the average over the entire season, of course, the points that you've scored. So something big up for grabs. This is how they rolled out today from Como, and from the flag things were extraordinarily busy. Belkin here represented for the last time in those by now familiar colours, but it was indeed Sky and Neta Ventura that really went for it early on and just started to throw down a few benchmarks, Dan Lloyd.
Yeah, the experienced German rider there, Paul Voss, going out and is in the breakaway, which we'll go through in just a few moments' time. 11 riders up the front, and it didn't take too long before it established itself. There's Jeremy Watt, another member of this breakaway group. If we just go through them now, Androni are represented there on your pictures by Tiziano Dall'Antonio. We've got the Colombian champion who's just gone off your screen. That is Rubiano riding for the Colombia team. Bardiani, well, they managed to get Pagani up here eventually, as there were 3 riders who had to gradually get their way across to the original 8. They also included Matthias Brandl from Austria, who's recently won 2 stages of the Tour of Britain. Lampre have got the Slovenian rider Jan Polanc. Neri Sotoli have Andrea Fedi. As we mentioned already, Paul Voss is up there representing NetApp Endura in one of their last races before they become the Bora team. Tinkoff Saxo have Paulinho, second at the Olympics back in '04. And finally, Team Europe Car have Romain Guillermois, one of the youngest riders in the break.
198 riders started today, 199 in fact. Don't know who I was thinking of missing out there. 25 teams in total. Dan, this is a huge race, and at 260 kilometres, they've added another 4. Not that they'll notice that at the end of such a long day. It is a proper test, and rightly a monument, this.
Yeah, of course, there are those 5 big monuments in cycling, which starts back in March with Milan-San Remo in Italy, of course, and then end, of course, a few months later here in Lombardy. And in between, we've got Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, the oldest one-day races in the world. And as you said, Carlton, this, arguably, in terms of terrain, the hardest.
Just passing the Madonna di Gisalo, that's the patron saint of cyclists, and indeed the Museum of the Giro, just close at hand. So if you ever do walk up from Lake Como, then you can go and look at some of the old Maglia Rosas of old. Hooking in with us live right now, it's a handy breakaway to say the very least, some proper talent within it. And I guess you might think some alarm bells going on further back. Well, they've held their gap for quite some time. Just waiting for our latest update, but it's been about 6 minutes for quite a while. Some of the descents, as you can see, are not overly technical until you get to bends such as this. Open, not the kindest camber, but at least, Dan, this year it's dry.
Yeah, I was just about to say exactly the same thing. The last couple of years, of course, finishing in Como with an extremely technical run in towards the finish and some very steep climbs and descents done in the wet, but yeah, not quite so technical in terms of the gradients this year on the last part of the course, and also the fact that they've got dry weather, as you said, Carlton, should mean it's safer. But as you can see, we're still having some skirmishes towards the back of the bunch. Christian Knees held up there just a few moments ago before we came on air. He was having to swap his bikes. In fact, I'm wondering whether this is a rerun of a crash we saw a little bit earlier on.
I hope so, because otherwise he's been racked with bad luck. Hernandez also from Tinkoff Saxo getting tangled up with that with 90 to go. Yes, it appears that he's had some ill fortune. I think this was a little bit earlier on, Dan.
Yeah, it was. This is, you see Christian Knees having trouble with his gears there and had to ultimately change bikes. Luckily, his team car wasn't too far behind, but here are those breakaway riders. As you said, Carlton, they've been pushing on right from the very beginning. I think their maximum gap was around about 11 minutes. That's been pulled back now to around about 6 minutes, which is where it's been held for the last 40 kilometres or so.
So we're just spinning through those who are in the break, as you can see. A lot of our minds, or a lot of our thoughts really, cast behind us into the main peloton. So many stories to tell, Dan. Mikkel Kwiatkowski, who is, of course, resplendent in his rainbow jersey, said he can't quite believe that he is, in fact, world champion, has been elevated, along, of course, running here with several former world champions as well. It's big news, and particularly for him.
Yeah, there he is on your screens there. Nice to see that he's chosen a traditional black short rather than going for an all-white outfit. But yeah, last year's world champion, Portuguese rider Alberto Rui Costa of Lampre is also within this bunch, and he'll be looking to do something. Roman Kreutzke is also up there from Tinkoff Saxo in the yellow there on your screens. Slightly strange story behind that. He's kind of provisionally suspended, I believe, by the UCI, but has been kind of not sanctioned and let off by the Court of Arbitration for Sport in his home country. But I think the UCI are about to try and appeal it, but he's managing to race just at this moment in time.
Yes, it's one of those little clouds, I'm afraid, thankfully, that are absent from the sky as we speak. A little bit of dappled sunshine, the road temperature, you kind of get a bit of a shock when you head through underneath these trees. You suddenly get into the cooler climate. In the sunshine, it does feel very, very warm. In fact, we took ourselves some lunch earlier on today. Won't make you too jealous, but extraordinarily hot it was. It's going to feel very, very warm to these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's nice to finish on the race of the falling leaves with actually some decent weather. The riders will be very grateful for that today. It's terrible when you finish the season under cloudy and rainy skies, and it just makes you feel a little bit depressed. But as you said, Carlton, so much to race for here today. Not only have we got this monument to take the win, but as you've already said, Contador leading that World Tour ranking at the moment, but only just from Alejandro Valverde. So those two will be scrapping it out, although I do believe at least one of them is going on to Beijing to race to try and pick up more points. Might be wrong in that, but certainly something I seem to remember reading a few days ago. The
motorcycle keeping well clear. I think they've probably learnt from the rain and almost near entanglements that we've had in the past. Some very good feisty riding, as you can see, right from the very beginning today. And these riders, well, they went out very, very quickly. In fact, it was 8 at first, with 3 bridging over. And I'm just wondering who's had some trouble there. I think it was possibly just showing you the pace that they were carrying into it. And indeed, the gaps that start opening up as soon as any number of riders decide to attack. Is this group of 11 capable of going all the way, Dan?
I don't think so. In fact, we've just had an update on our screens as to the time gap, and it's under 4 minutes now. So it's come down significantly over that last climb, which was a mere blip, really, in comparison with what's about to come. We shall talk you through the course in great detail very, very shortly. But shortly, they will be coming up to the Colle Gallo, which will go up to 763 metres above sea level. And that is not even the biggest test of the day and of what is still to come. So seems like some teams are determined to make this race hard. I think they're less concerned with the gap to the breakaway and more concerned with starting to hurt the legs of some of the quicker men, the likes of perhaps a Ben Swift, or the guys that can kind of climb, like Galapan, that have a good sprint on them as well. The climbers like Contador, Dan Martin and their teams will be hoping to get rid of those guys over the next couple of climbs.
Well, we're off the Colle Gallo on that sinuous descent. In fact, at the 64 kilometres to go marker, we'll be on the Gander. Big test today, no doubt about it, Dan. Comes 26 from home, and it will be familiar to many cycle fans.
Yeah.
At this point, racing for safety, I think you might say. We've seen Cadel calling his BMC boys to get to the fore whenever he has been in the house, as it were. Great policing duties. And in fact, just one last thing on Cadel before we get to the end, and I presume we're going to speak to him again at the finish. Let's hope he comes home safely. Jin Okowitz, who set up BMC Racing, says that Cadel has actually taught them so much, and his influence has been perforated throughout all of the races, and very much a properly disciplined team as well. I'm not suggesting that the likes of very experienced riders like Philippe Gilbert and Sammy Sanchez need disciplining, but Cadell has a sense of how to take on particularly some of the Grand Tours, and he's turned BMC into a real fighting force, and finally he got the team around him, didn't he, Dan, to help him to achieve, well, greatness.
Yeah, it's certainly a team in the past which we've kind of almost said have underperformed quite regularly. Paid a lot of money for some riders at the top of their game who haven't continued to get the results perhaps that they were expected. Maybe Philippe Gilbert is amongst them. I mean, he did win the World Championships, of course, but his win rate has very much gone down since BMC signed him just a few years ago, when he won pretty much every one-day race that he wanted to, back when he was riding for the Belgian Lotto team. But certainly Alan Piper, the Australian coming on board this year from the Garmin team, seems to have really changed the fortunes of that team. They're very concentrated now. They've got their goals. It was very impressive actually to see them win the World Team Trial Championship, should I say, just a couple of weeks ago in Ponferrada, Spain. That was a goal of theirs right from the start of the year. And certainly before the start of the race itself, we were bigging up the two teams who've dominated that World Championships for the last 2 years. Only can find a Quick Step and the Orica Green Edge team. But BMC took both of them in a very impressive manner, so they're the World Time Trial champions themselves now.
Just on the gander, we're approaching that point of 15%, and some familiar faces out here that look like they're chugging just a little bit, one of whom is Ivan Basso. There he is. Not going to be his day, but it might well be the likes of Duarte. They've got Rubiano, the Colombian champion, who's up the road, and he's already kind of pacing everybody in that group. And as you can see, those with an interest later on today are also starting to mass at the front. Who from the Belkin boys do you think is going to shine brightly today, Dan?
Well, if we look there at the front in the first four, lying in third position at the moment is Steven Kruijswijk, in front of compatriot and teammate Bauke Mollema, and it's probably going to be Mollema that they'll be working for, but number one for the day is actually Wilco Kelderman, a young Dutchman who's had an extremely consistent year. He's not a little bit like Contador in some ways, isn't it? He seems to favour the stage races over the one-day race. He hasn't got any massive one-day race results to write home about, but certainly in stage races this year, he's really gone up another level and shown himself to be, well, somebody with huge potential for the years to come. So they've got a couple of cards to play. They're certainly remaining attentive there at the front at the moment. One person who's done an absolutely enormous amount of work, and I'd like to mention him before we get too much further, and he's done his job and gone off the side and around the back of the bunch, and that is Quintana, not Nairo, who's of course still injured and recovering from surgery, but his younger brother Dea. He's been on the front a lot. I've watched the monitors before we came on air for a good half an hour, and he was doing a lot of work on the climbs. He's back there now, just in front of the Orica boys and the Belkin boys, and again, another rider who's got a huge amount of potential. I think we could probably have said that before he even well, pedalled in the World Tour, I imagine, with his brother being so talented. But there's another guy, Fabio Aru. That's who the locals will be cheering today, the Astana rider, number 31. What a year he's had, Carlton.
Oh, it's just been absolutely outstanding. When you think about what he did in the Giro, and he's kind of maintained that kind of form for such a long time. He's a man who is described as the leader of the next wave. Well, he's surfing that one in. Couple of stages on the Vuelta, third overall on the Giro d'Italia. That double Vuelta win as well, I think, came as more of a surprise, really, considering what he'd actually put into the season. But he's maintained his form absolutely beautifully. He's an extraordinarily strong, dedicated and highly skilled rider for such a young man.
Yes, it's been great to see him back up the results which he got at the Giro d'Italia at the start of this year. Of course, last year was already great in the Giro, helping his teammate Vincenzo Nibali to victory. This year, a leader in his own right, along with Michele Scarponi, and well, didn't he do well, finishing up there on the podium as such a young rider. But often it's harder to back that up with another result straight afterwards, but he definitely did that at the Vuelta and at Spania and more. As you said, it sometimes can be hard from a motivational point of view, especially when it's no longer in your own country, but certainly he seems like a big prospect and somebody that the Italians will be cheering for years to come.
I think so. Incidentally, he's on terrific form. He's held it from the Vuelta, finishing fourth in the Milan-Torino. And I believe that was only, what, 4 days ago. So he suck up for punishment, you might say. That was 193 kilometres. So he's enjoying those sort of 200-ish and more races. And he's got one to deal with right now. Youthful exuberance, perhaps. He's got a lot on board, including a nation of hopefuls, because frankly, it's been a bit of a dearth as far as results are concerned in the monuments for Italian races, hasn't it?
Yeah, an interesting statistic actually that I read earlier from Killian Kelly, Irish Peloton, on Twitter. The last Italian to win a monument, and by that we're saying Milan-San Remo, Tour of Flanders, Paris-Roubaix, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, or the race you're watching now, Il Lombardia, was actually in this race Damiano Cunego, but 6 years ago, back in 2008, the longest drought Italians have had in monuments by far, ever. And the last Frenchman to win a monument, Laurent Jalabert, back in 1997.
That stings.
Yeah, and one more statistic before I bore you all completely to tears, as you sip on your coffee, Carlton, making mine get cold, is that, of course, the traditional countries being Belgium, France, Spain and Italy, at least one rider from one of those countries has won a monument in every year since the first monument ever took place, which I think was 1896. So far, we haven't had one of those riders win a monument, and if we don't today, it will be the first time ever that one of those countries hasn't won one for a year. Of course, at the start of the year, Milan-San Remo, that was won by the Norwegian rider from Katusha, Christoph. Tour of Flanders was Cancellara, wasn't it? And then Paris-Roubaix, Nicky Terpstra. Nicky Terpstra won Paris-Roubaix from the Netherlands. Then what do we have? You have to help me out here. Oh, Philip Dijkman goes on the attack from Team Sky. Obviously trying to soften. Yeah. Just whilst I get on Wikipedia.
Dijkman has a go. Yeah, the only blessing for those nations.
Thank you. I remember. I didn't even have to look it up.
I've written it down for him. 69.4 kilometres to go, and they're starting to just reach out and grab for this, Dan. I'm not surprised. We're going to see more of these little rolling attacks. It's a question of who you drag with you in terms of alliances, I guess, at moments such as this.
Well, he's dragged along with him a good little fighter, and I say that in a little bit of an ironic way, because it's Brambilla, probably most famous for the little punch-up he had in the Vuelta recently with Rovni of Tinkoff Saxo, and
they were both
actually, ironically, in the race that they did not long after, I can't remember which race it was now. Oh, it's Grand Prix Wallonie.
It was.
They both ended up in the break again together.
Did they?
Like a late attack, yeah.
Indeed, one of those riders at the time, and then had to apologise. But
sounds about right.
Thanks, Dan. But it's one of those scenarios where they both wish it hadn't happened, and of course there had been other fights, incidentally. Joaquim Rodriguez was busy whacking out there, wasn't he? He was swinging away.
It was Philip Dijkman who's just gone on the attack from the peloton.
There you are.
Who he hit.
Yeah, and went and apologised. And lucky for Rodriguez, it was off camera because it was square in the mush. Split his lip, I believe, and he was more than unhappy about it. Here we go then, they're starting to roll with this, and nice to see Warren Barguil. Now, he was my outside tip at the top of today as being somebody to watch. Started the day at 66 to 1. He's been very, very sprightly. I think he would have won a stage on the Vuelta Tour of Spain late on had he not reached out and grasped dry sand and squozen it too hard, and it just went through his fingers. But he's...
What?
Yeah, it's no prize if you grab at it, and that's what happened last time. He needs to learn a sense of strategy, and maybe he has learned from that mistake and can deliver today. He's certainly up here.
Well, maybe he hasn't. He seems to be dragging the entire peloton back up to these two at the moment. Chiruka is the guy from Caja Rural who also followed Barguil in that attack, but they have been caught. There is Dijkman on his Pinarello Dogma. Looks like an F8 model, one of the newest ones. Austrian champion Zoidl from Trek Factory Racing also right up there at the moment. So we're starting to see kind of the second-tier riders, not the out-and-out favourites of this race, but the second-tier riders trying to go up the road, get a little bit of an advantage. I didn't see whether Christoph Kern's been brought back into the fold. I would imagine he has been by now, but you can see this peloton has noticeably thinned out since we started our broadcast here today. Only a matter of around about 80 riders left here from the starters this morning.
It's about 23 Celsius, so it's a lot warmer here than it is up on the peaks. Here they go then. It's just starting to dull out a little bit, as you can see. Flat shadows, still nice and sharp at the finish line. 62.2 to go, and well, we're heading down now to Braca, where the road kicks up yet again. The next peak will be at 46, and they'll be there before you know it. This is going to be quite a pacey part of the day.
Well, it's an important part of the day. It's where we can begin to get a little bit excited and expect a little bit of action. 62 Ks on the train that they've got here is going to take them a little less, I would say, than an hour and a half. These guys will be averaging still around 40 Ks per hour, even with this rolling terrain as they come in here towards Bergamo. I do believe that I saw Cadel Evans safely ensconced in the middle of the peloton, so he's obviously feeling reasonably good for his last race on European soil.
I'd like to see him go well. He'll be coming across the line with... I'm not sure how much the locale are aware of his impending departure from European roads, but we'll see. Here's a clear view of just how Colombians perhaps are okay at climbing, but in fact we've just hooked back a little bit further. That's Chiruka just picking up a couple of our former breakaway men. I do apologise. Aviactico. There we are, and we still have our Colombian friend intact. Just because you can climb, it doesn't mean you can descend, Dan.
No, that's very much the case. Some riders are gifted in both. There's Gavazzi just dropping his head. He's been in the breakaway all day and he's had it. It's a little bit of a surprise, actually. When I looked at the composition of the breakaway this morning, I almost expected him to be the strongest. Brendley there, the Austrian from IM Cycling, the Swiss team, also suffering. Not a big surprise as a big rider, time trial champion of Austria for the past 2 years. On tremendous form recently at the Tour of Britain, where he took back-to-back stages on some of the harder stages. In fact, you can see how important it is within the peloton to be towards the front of the bunch for these descents, because if you get towards the back here, well, it's a real effort coming out of these corners, sprinting to try and keep up with that long line of riders.
Amora, love that place. When you go over the other side, if you are a half-decent descender, it's going to do you no good if it's a narrow, sinuous road and you're stuck behind those who are less capable at the downhill stuff. This is Chiruka, who's he's just hoovering up breakaway riders at the moment, and is still eating into this mountain. Thanks to all of you, by the way, who've already been in touch on Twitter. If you'd like to join the conversation, it's at Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or Daniel Lloyd, DanielLoyd, and then stick the number 1 on the end. So Daniel Lloyd 1, with plenty of L's in the middle, and then we'll have a chat. Any questions so far, Dan? Or thoughts?
Yeah, plenty of people writing in to say that they're loving watching Cadel Evans doing his last race on European soil. He is carrying on next year. If you've just caught the news that he is retiring, he's got 2 races back at home in Australia, possibly 3 if he does the national championships as well, followed by the Tour Down Under, followed by the Cadel Evans race, which will be his last ever race as a professional rider before he takes up an ambassador role within the BMC team. So he'll be looking to go out with a little bit of a flurry, I think, here today. There's some very, very strong riders who I've already mentioned in his BMC lineup today. TJ Van Garderen, also Philippe Gilbert, who's won this race on 2 occasions, and Sammy Sanchez, who's been up towards the front of this race also on a number of occasions over his long career. So they've certainly got some cards to play later on in this race once they get to the final few climbs, and I would absolutely love to see Cadel do a big ride to finish his career off here in Europe. Meanwhile, we've got these 4 riders still here at the front, just being caught up by the Frenchman Jeremy Roy from the FDJ team. So 5 strong riders still remaining. Last time gap we got to the breakaway, still around 3 minutes. So they're doing a good job here at the front, but with 60 Ks to go, you have to say that well, their time out the front here isn't going to last forever.
No, just under 60 kilometres to go. Now this is going to be eaten into very, very quickly. We're going to have a big handle on who is going to be our main contenders today. Do you care at this distance to start talking about your choices for today, Dan?
Yeah, do you want them?
Go on then.
Gilbert to win as a rank outsider, VMO of AG2R. Or Villamoz. I'm never sure exactly how you pronounce his name. I must look that up.
Well, especially if he wins.
Yeah, let's call him Alex then.
Well, Alex, great day.
Well done, Alex.
Yeah.
Or just Al.
Yeah.
I might just go for the really kind of
yeah.
matey one.
Yeah, or just initials. Or just give him a thumbs up and then begin. 58.2, giving you the inside here and just how we work. Or not. Chiruka then out front of this little approach group, the chasing group, if you like. And it is Brandley, or Brandle, as we've been calling him for years, the man who took a couple of stages on the Tour of Britain. Hugely popular result as well for a big man, and he's doing a little man's job here as well, in the best sense of that word, I mean. He's skipping over these climbs in good order.
Yeah, well, he's just a strong rider, and you know, we've seen it plenty of times from people like Jens Vogt, who's recently retired, and also, you know, Thor Hushovd, both riders above 80 kilograms, who certainly can show the climbers a clean pair of wheels when they're on form, and by no means bad climbers in their own right, kind of rouleurs almost, or just plain strong men. Christoph almost looks like he's developing into a rider like that. What a stellar season he's had. But yeah, Brendley there, he's been dropped by the front 5 riders, and they're a couple of minutes behind, so he's lost a fair amount of time. But he's still young. I was looking him up earlier, actually, because I remember racing against him when he was with Futon Servetto back in, I think, 2009 or 10. Still only 24 years of age, so he turned pro at a very young age, and has still got a long way in front of him in terms of his career.
Ever slept on a futon?
No.
Very comfortable. 57.3 kilometres to go. 2 minutes and 11 to the Chiruka chasing group. The peloton at 2:38. Thankfully, we've got our time gaps back. You can see there's clouds knocking around, and we can get showers at this time of year. And it looks like we might well have a light dowsing at some point. Geraldine Craven says, I wish I could tweet the word chapeau in an Aussie accent. It's easy, Geraldine. You just say corked hat. I guess that's Aussie chapeau. Yeah, Cadell is bowing out today from European source, but will race on, as Dan has already said. A lot of you actually tweeting in saying how much you've admired Cadell over the years and how you're enjoying, you have enjoyed him. I hope we get at least a brief shot of him later on today before he actually crosses the line. I'm sure we're going to have a brief chat with him. A lot of cut-up road here, a lot of broken surface. This is a nasty thing to have to deal with, especially in the centre where the overbanding's missing. It's sort of popped out, and not to the liking of our Colombian champion at the moment. It's just going to the rear and having done his turn. You get a pinch puncture very easily on surfaces such as this. Yeah, it's not too bad when you're in a small breakaway like these guys here, the 5 men at the front. You can pick your own line. The rider at the front will be pointing out any major holes or rough surfaces on the descent, but the problem can come when you're in the peloton. You're going very fast, glued to the wheel in front, because if you go to one side, then you're having to put out too much energy to stay at the same speed. And at that point, if somebody just dodges something at the last moment, you yourself can find that you just plough straight into it. That's certainly what happened to David Miller in the recent Tour of Spain. Rider in front of him just going straight into a bollard after not being able to swerve around it. And Miller, although not breaking anything, when I saw him the day after, very cut up and bruised from crashing at 60 kilometres per hour. But let's hope everybody stays upright. We've seen very few crashes so far today in our coverage, and long may it remain so. 55.2 kilometres to go. It seems like Kimberly Ramplin is not impressed by my Australian version of chapeau, which is corked hat. I don't know why. Said with affection, but there you go. 1 minute and 25 is our gap now, and it looks like the peloton is... Oh, do you know what? You remember what we were saying about being good climbers but not necessarily great descenders? Our Colombian champion looks like he's having a bit of bother here on occasion.
Well, as you said, yeah, sometimes it's some great climbers are amazing descenders, but I have to say, normally you'll find the best descenders in the gruppetto at the Grand Tours. If you try and go downhill with Mark Cavendish, for example, then you'll really see what a great descender is. Peter Sagan, of course, one of the best bike handlers also in the peloton, but you know, the gruppetto in the Grand Tours, they have to get through within the time limits, and in order to do that, they'll try and make time back on the front guys on the descents and on the flat, and that generally means they're great bike handlers. And they're normally rough and ready sprinters as well, which means that they're used to rubbing shoulders and cornering extremely fast, taking risks, etc., which you know, is kind of the opposite in some ways for the GC riders, who like to be a little bit more conservative. They don't want to take unnecessary risks because it's all about being consistent and not losing any stupid time. So yeah, there are some varying degrees of skill sets when it comes to descending within the pro peloton.
Jeremy Watt, rangy figure from Francis de Jeux. You just see him there in the blue. He's had a couple of double checks in the corners, and actually showing a little lack of confidence, and unfortunately what he's doing is he's following the men in front of him, just allowing his mind to use their lines, and he's a much bigger man, different in stature to those in front of him, and so the lines that he's going to have to follow are slightly different. So he's double checking, because he's doing the sheep thing and following somebody else's line, finding himself get out of shape and then having to recheck and get back in. You've got to do your own thing to a certain extent, haven't you?
Yeah, sometimes it helps if you're, if you're behind a very confident descender who you're confident in, that's not going to really push the limits too much. And it helps sometimes to have a motorbike in front where you can just see the lines that they're taking, because of course, there are certain corners which just whip around a little bit more than you're expecting as you go around the exits, and it can catch you out, and it's impossible, of course, as a cyclist to know all of the roads by heart. A lot of the teams will have been looking at the final route for today, especially since the route's changed from the last couple of years, just to make sure they're familiar with things, but trying to memorise every corner on the descent. And also it happens especially in time trials, but also in road races as well. You go around with your team practicing on the course, but when you're in a race scenario and you've got the race bike, race wheels, the skin suit, the aero helmet and everything else, you're just going that bit faster, and things can come up on you very, very quickly indeed and catch you out.
Well, Barguil's here. We have Aru here, Rodriguez likewise, and it's starting to look quite select on the chasers. They've now just over 2 minutes down on their breakaway.
Quick step there as well for Kwiatkowski, so well, the usual suspects, but still no Movistar doing anything. Whether they're just trying to play it clever or whether Valverde's not feeling particularly good today remains to be seen.
Is that Lozada on the front?
Might be, maybe he did get back on from the difficulties he was in earlier.
There we are. So they're 2 minutes and 42 down. When do you start? Suddenly, as we were saying it, almost instantaneously, Garmin Sharp pick up. It looks like Ryder Eggedal has got rid of his cramp, and this is for Dan Martin, Ben.
Yeah, pretty sure I'm right in saying that it's everything for Dan Martin today, but having said that, I can't see him amongst those three Garmin riders there. We've got Eggedal, also got Cardoso there, I believe, but didn't see Dan Martin there, but I'm pretty sure he's still in this group.
It was Lozada, incidentally. It's just one of his teammates just handing him a bottle, saying, well done, calm yourself down and just get into the zone. And I guess that's where they're trying to figure out how to play this one. How would you play it then?
Well, I mean, they've got to chase now, 2 minutes and 42 seconds, but perhaps more worryingly is that almost 1 minute gap up to what is effectively a very strong chasing group. Just to remind those of you who have just joined us, a few moments ago we had an attack of Mollema of Belkin, Hermans of BMC who started the whole thing off, Peter Wiening of Orica Green Edge, and Shirel of AG2R. They've bridged across to Chiruka, so we've got a very strong five-man group who've, well, comparatively got reasonably fresh legs. I say comparatively, though, compared to those that went out very early on this morning in that original group of 11. They're pressing on, they're closing the gap to these two, the last remaining riders from that first 11-man group. Paulinho of Tinkoff Saxo and Fedi, a young rider from Neri Sotoli.
Lovely part of the world, this. Lots of craggy rock outcrops, as you can see. A lot of marble here as well. Italy famous for it. Great hunk of it in the press centre, incidentally. Sort of pink marble. There you are. You hear the saws going occasionally out in the countryside. They have to douse them in order to keep the heat out of the blade as they cut through the rock. These guys, as you can see at the moment, cutting through this landscape absolutely beautifully, but and maintaining a decent pace with it. I think this is looking extremely handy, especially when you've got out of those who are here, Bauke Mollema from Belkin. Well, it's an early one. They've been given, it can favour a brave act. This is brave, going with this sort of distance. I'm still wondering whether he's actually working for Wilco Kelderman. We started off, incidentally, at 300 to 1, Kelderman, which I thought was rather long odds, incidentally. There you go. Meanwhile, our duo up front and still working hard, and of this duo, Andrea Fedi, we mentioned him a little bit earlier on, a runner-up in Plouay to Sylvain Chavanel. Now, he's only 23 years of age. He's a very, very plucky rider. I don't know what that motivational tab is that he's just reading. Somebody's written to him. It's clearly something.
Just
and
the profile of the stage.
I don't think it was. I think it was actually scribble, something like poetry. Maybe it's a recipe, maybe it's a shopping list. Who knows? Maybe he's that confident. Just ordering the champagne. 34.5 to go, and they're looking at each other. They don't want to do all the duty here, Dan.
Well, they're pressing on, and rightly so. They've got a good opportunity here. You know, the fact that this, in terms of terrain, is arguably the hardest of the 5 monuments, it means that it's also thinned down the group quite a lot. So when you've got a thinned down group, it means you've got very few teams with, you know, a lot of firepower to chase on the front. I haven't counted exactly how many Katusha riders and Movistar riders there are there, but certainly they seem to be trying to keep their cards close to their chest at the moment and not wear themselves out too early. But they've got to be careful. They're lucky that they've got a very confident-looking Michał Kwiatkowski there at the moment, who's got a couple of teammates from Omega Pharma Quick-Step setting the pace on the front. But doesn't seem to be much unity amongst these riders in the group here at the moment. It's one team for a few kilometres, then another team takes over, but yeah, they can't afford to let this group of 5 go too far up the road, and the gap is extending. 1 minute and 5 seconds now between those 2 groups now.
There is the red and white of Katusha, and here we are, Kwiatkowski, and this is a move from Lampre, and it looks like Rui Costa to me that's gone off. No?
No, it is Lampre, but no, it doesn't look like Rui Costa to me.
Let's have a quick look back, see if anyone's tempted to actually join the fun at the moment. Omega Pharma still looking after Kwiatkowski, and the rainbow jersey is there. So I'm still trying to get a positive ID on this. They had Jan Polanc in the breakaway earlier on. 2 minutes and 20 still the gap from the main group, and riders are going to keep doing this. Just do the maths. He's got a bridge at minute and what, 10, minute and 11. The car's trying to get through, called out of the gap, and well, announcing to everybody to get out of the way.
Yeah, moto included.
Yeah, exactly. Our camera, for goodness sake, leave him alone. There's Mildred, giving it plenty. Always does.
Yeah, those team cars being allowed to fill the gap between the second group on the road and what's left of the main peloton, which they'll do when the gap is over 1 minute. As you can see now, clock ticking down on our GPS at least to 57 seconds. So it might well be that as soon as they get up there, they're almost recalled to go back behind the peloton. But I'm quite surprised that they allowed a group that strong to go quite that far up the road. Still a long way to go. I'm still fully expecting us to see a big battle from the group of riders that contains the likes of Kwiatkowski, Gilbert, Alberto Contador, Rodriguez, Valverde, etc., etc. But not making life easy on themselves just at this moment in time.
No, just coming through Brembia. Absolutely glorious part of the world, this, as you can see. And they get plenty of rainfall in Italy. Have done during their racing, but we're up towards the mountains. And still very much a verdant feel to everything today. We'll be back downstairs before you know it. Any more thoughts on how this one's going to pan out, Dan? It's down to the last 2 climbs. We assumed that this would be the case. It's a big attack zone, this, and you can already see that there are teams just starting to muster their stations. Yeah,
we're starting to see a little bit of collusion, really, between some of the teams on the front of the peloton. I'm looking at on my other picture, but certainly this breakaway has worked very, very well indeed together. We've got 6 guys here now, having caught the Colombian champion Rubiano. He won't be doing much work, and neither will Jeremy Waugh. They were both a part of the early 11-man breakaway, which went this morning. But the other 4 guys here, or 5, Chiruka, he's been out the front a little while, but certainly Peter Wiening, Ben Hermans, Malcolm Mollema, they'll be doing quite a lot, and they work well together. They brought that gap down to the front 2 pretty quickly. It's under a minute now for the first time in a long time, but yeah, we've got a collusion here at the front with IM Cycling, Omega Pharma Quick-Step, and I think even BMC started to do a bit on the front, despite having Hermans up the road.
Yeah, Katusha just latching on at the moment, playing a clever game with Perito Rodriguez, and we're starting to get some suffering as well. Zulioli, one of those. In fact, seen a couple of the Androni boys looking a bit second-hand. Diego Rosa went back to the car and had a chat as if to say, just give me some water and let me off. And let's not forget, once they're over the peak, it's virtually downhill all the way to the line for the last, what, 3.5, 4K?
Well, that was a very quick descent, wasn't it? Those kilometres to go have tumbled down. As you said, just 11.5 kilometres to go. And there's not a big chase going on behind here at the moment. There's just not enough firepower amongst the teams. Hedgedale's going on the front to try and do something for Dan Martin, who would dearly love to make up for a season which has been dogged by bad luck. I mean, great performance at the Vuelta, but certainly the one-day races haven't gone his way in terms of the fact that he's had great form, but not been able to do much with it. Crashes, etc., really impeding him.
Sorry, Dan. Yeah, he's had his issues here as well, hasn't he? Tumbling on the last corner.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Going for a podium spot behind Rodriguez, and yeah, took that tumble and ended up in 4th.
Yeah, it's kind of too many tumbles, I think, for Dan. That sort of start of a sequence fell at the Giro this year, where he was expected to go very well and certainly be a contender for victory. Fell in the team time trial at the top of the year. Seems an awful long time ago. Well, it is. It's been a long and difficult season, and Ryder Eschedal picks it up. This is pacing for Dan Martin, who's within the pack right now. Wilco Kelderman is within this group. So is Philippe Gilbert, just sitting up and looking reasonably fresh. Warren Barguil is on his arm right now as well. A lot of pace, but is it all too late with this trio looking to be functioning rather well? Just looking at them right now, where's Leo Koenig?
I have to say, I don't know. I didn't see exactly what happened to Koenig. I think he must have been dropped or had some sort of mechanical problem.
Yeah, forgive us for that. I'm not sure whether you spotted it at home, but we certainly didn't. 10.7 to go. Into town they come. So they have to go up to the old Citadel. They then go through the gate, the Garibaldi gate. Oh, hello. We've got some tumbles as well further down the order. And that is Tom Dumoulin that's on the deck. And that's not great. Well, that's his day done. They will have to rejig their strategy in terms of Warren Barguil right now, because he's not going to get back in after that, I'm afraid. It's just too late into this one.
No, 10 Ks to go. That's the worst moment to possibly crash. And as you said, Carlton, I think that's day over in terms of this race for Tom Dumoulin. Just a touch of wheels here. I think that's maybe... Oh.
Well, he was within the pack, wasn't he? And one of the Francis Lejeune riders also coming down. But Tom Dumoulin, I'm afraid, cooked. At least he's not injured, which is we can take some heart from. Ben Hermans then, rocking and rolling with Peter Wiening. Well, we had Leo Koenig that looked nice and relaxed on one of the descents, but we've got this duo right now, still waiting to find out where he is. Our
Australian viewers will be very, very pleased to hear that Cadel Evans is sitting safe and pretty in 2nd place of the peloton at the moment, sitting on the wheel of Damiano Caruso, who's doing the... Oh, Kwiatkowski, I thought he was involved in that crash, you know, of Tom Dumoulin. I saw that it was his wheel that I think Dumoulin went into, and, well...
Got gear problems.
Looks like day over for him as well. Not sure exactly what the problem is, whether it's physical or a problem with the bike. I can only imagine it must be the former, because I think his team car's already gone past, is it?
There we are, he's called him through. Not going to be him today. Well, there you are. Welcome to the curse of the rainbow jersey, I guess. Michael Kwiatkowski not going to function today, but Cadel most certainly will. And Dan Martin's just started to come through as well, I can tell you. In fact, it's Ryder Eschedal picking up. And there we go. That was the touch and the downing of Tom Dumoulin. 9.4 to go, and it looks like we may have had a spin-off with Kwiatkowski also indirectly involved. Come on, Cadel, you're in 3rd place amongst the pack. Meanwhile, we're just dwelling on Kwiatkowski. We know the story with Kwiatkowski, but we need to be getting back to the action. 9.2 kilometres to go, and Mikhail Kwiatkowski is out of the day, unfortunately. Meanwhile, a lot of racing still to be had out front.
He's just completely blown, has he? I mean, he was just kind of involved in that crash with Tom Dumoulin, in that it was his wheel that Dumoulin went into, but wow. I mean, he's come to a complete standstill there. Meanwhile, here at the front, they've still got a decent gap, 19 seconds, but I think that's going to come down very, very quickly on this final steep climb of the day. Let's remember, there's a 12% pitch. There's a cobbled section of 200 metres, which presumably Philippe Gilbert will be looking forward to. 18 seconds though to gap, 8.7 Ks to go.
There we are, that's Ryder Eschedal working for Dan Martin. Now, this bodes very well for Dan Martin. Likewise, Perito Rodriguez. Forget about Kwiatkowski, it's not going to happen for him today. He's had his fun this season on more days than one, and this day is not one of them. 8.5 kilometres to go, a little bit less than that, 17 seconds now. This duo, they've been very, very brave today, have Ben Hermans and Peter Wiening. They're going to have to dig very deep into their reserves if they're going to hold off the pack. It's 16 seconds only, and Cadel Evans is right up there. So, I've got to tell you, is Wilco Kelderman. Likewise is Alberto Contador, who's going for the UCI ranking. And also Alejandro Valverde are in here, and Rui Costa, likewise for La Prima Marina, being protected within that gang or gabble, whichever you care to call it. Well, there's a lot at stake here. Now it's time to start making some moves, I believe, and it may well be last chance saloon for plenty. Belkin there just moving into position. That was Steven Kruijswijk, incidentally, for them, the Dutchman. Meanwhile, 7.7 to go. They've got to have a bit of belief, this pairing. That's important.
Yeah, although La Prima Marina have just sent their remaining riders to the front of the group behind. A little over 3 kilometres now before this duo will reach that final climb here in the town of Bergamo, city of Bergamo. La Prima Marina with 3 riders on the front, 2 of them sharing the workload. Well, Omega Pharma Quickstep have done a sterling job all day. Peter Seri is there, but their leader Michał Kwiatkowski out of the race, at least in terms of prospects of winning it. And likewise, Tom Dumoulin of the Giant Shimano team, and they've got them in their sights now. This big, wide, open road which leads them to Bergamo means that they've got this duo in sights. They can see the motorbike cameras, and that will give them extra confidence behind.
Dino Nocentini for AG2 a la Mondiale looks very fresh, and he's just being moved into position. I think he's going to be slung into this climb. There it is. It's a very select group of about 30 riders right now, and Ejedal is still part of it. Dan Martin likewise. Wow. Take your pick, I guess, everybody. Belkin, there is Wilco Kelderman, number 51, on the outside. Now, can he just prove the bookmakers wrong at 300 to 1 at the top of the day? This could be a mighty call by him. Let's see, 6.8 to go. So many possibilities, Dan.
Yeah, just around a couple of kilometres now before they'll reach this final climb. And it certainly looks like this duo are going to reach the foot of it, at least, ahead of what's remaining of that pack. Great job by Ryder Hesjedal, the Canadian, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, to try and put Dan Martin in with a shout of winning this 108th edition of this monument.
Well, they're just starting to look at each other. Elbows are starting to flick out. It's Peter Weening is calling for assistance from Ben Hermans. Not being offered at the moment. Maybe it's because Hermans cannot offer it. Maybe he's just trying to keep something in reserve. Finally rolls through, and look at this. It's an arrowhead of talent that's coming towards them right now, and they look like they're on rails. There's no gap at all. I think they're done for.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be fighting out for the win, unfortunately, for them today. But they've done a great job to be out there as long as they have, and it's meant that their teammates behind haven't had to do any work. And by that I mean Cadel Evans, Philippe Gilbert, Sammy Sanchez, I think possibly even Albacini, the Swiss rider from Orica Green Edge, may be in this group behind. Certainly there's another rider from Orica there. I haven't quite managed to decide exactly who it is yet.
There we are, there's the Old Town. That's where we're heading to. We peak up to that, go through the Porta Garibaldi, and then we head downhill, and that is going to be eyeballs out. Now, don't forget, we'll be peaking about 3.5 Ks to go. Then when we're on the downhill section, there are so many twists and turns. It's, well, frankly dangerous. Last of the 90-degree turns comes at 250 metres to go, and there are plenty before that, Dan.
Yeah, 3 kilometres to go is where this last climb will peak. A nasty climb it is too, just over 1 kilometre long, and as you said, Carlton, there are a few pinch points and nasty turns which we saw a little bit earlier when we walked around here.
Here's one of them. Look at that little shimmy. That's a squeezer if ever I saw one, and then they're going to be kicking up. They'll be taking on the climb at any moment. 12% is the max, which comes very, very late on in the climb, just before it levels out. They've got a couple of 100 metres to go before they start the downhill. You know, Frank Schleck is up here, and this is a man who's bidding for his cycling future right now. He's also a man who's kind of been here before, Frank Schleck, so don't count him out. He was third in 05. That was a long time ago, and this has been a very long day. That is giant, and that is Warren Barguil, who's being guided into position here.
Yeah, I wonder whether Tom Dumoulin's also made it back up into this peloton. Would be very surprised if he had, but certainly Giant Shimano got 2 riders on the front of this group as we come into this last climb of the day, and they're almost on the tails of these duo in front.
Here we go then. This is where the hearts get broken of the breakaway, and we have an enormous group right now, and I believe this is Barguil actually going for it and setting his stall out and doing a lonesome with 4.4 to go. We know he can climb, we know he can sprint, but can he deliver? He believes he can. He's maybe done too much too soon on previous occasions. Let's look further back. Dan Martin's there in about position 10 for Garmin Sharp. Great to see Cadell as well up towards the pointy end on a day like this.
It is Albacini there. Tim Mellons is the rider from Lotto Belisol on the front now. We've got Pelizzotti on his wheel from Androni. In my mind, they're all going just that little bit too early at the moment. Big favourites waiting for the steeper gradients on this cobbled section still to come.
Here we go, 200 metres of cobbles. Go over to one side of the road and then you've got to cut in. There is the Porta Garibaldi. They're through that, past the Great Man's Monument and onto that smoother section here. Well, you can get a decent run if you're good enough, and these guys certainly are. Just hold on in the climb. It's more difficult to do than you might thought. There is a smooth section, but there's people in it, as you can see. Almost got taken out.
What a ride by young Tim Mellons, the Belgian rider, winner of this year's Eneco Tour. Still has daylight between himself and the big favourites behind. Are they biding their time, or don't they have the legs today? Let's wait and see.
Don't bide it too much, because Vellens will have you. Has he mugged the field? 3.8 to go. He's going to crest in about 200 metres time, and then it's going to be party time for him, provided the crowd don't get involved. Here we go, Dan.
Well, he's certainly getting a little bit of benefit there from the camera motorbikes, keen to get their shots. This, a very fast part of the climb. And as you said, Carlton, he's going to crest over the top here very, very soon now. He's got a decent gap, and if he does get over the top with a decent gap, it's hard to see anybody pulling him back.
I think Aru's on his case for Astana, just wrestling and rocking and rolling up this climb. It's a testy little nasty one right now. If they get over the top, then it's glory for these guys, and everyone else is going to get squeezed out today. 3.5 to go. He's about to crest.
Well, he's not a rider that we mentioned today, and perhaps we should have done. There is Fabio Aru from the Astana team on his wheel. There's Gilbert. Gilbert makes his move on the left-hand side of our screens right now, coming underneath there. He's making his way across to Vellens. This race not over by any means yet,
Rui
Carlton.
Costa's also there, and so is Valverde. He's also joining the mix. This is absolutely fantastic racing. Philippe Gilbert, former world champion, is here. Likewise, Rui Costa, Lampre Merida, and there is Valverde, and there is Rodriguez. Can Perito make it 3 in a row?
Well, he's certainly in with a shout, but you have to say, Carlton, that given the nature of the run-in now and how many rides we've got left, he's not going to be the fastest, and he's not going to be able to get a gap over these other riders now. That's the end of the climb. Gilbert crests it first. We've also got Lampre up here, Valverde, Perito, Rodriguez. Is that Albacini in 5th place?
Well, they're going to give it a go. Orica Greenedge, we believe it is Albacini. 3.1, they're on a downhill section right now. Don't forget, this is packed full of horrible turns, and the sequence will begin fairly shortly. There are hairpins, there are 90-degree bends, and the last one comes with 250 minutes to go. It's almost cruel. No Contador here, so this is a great moment for Valverde, who could take the UCI World Ranking. There he is in the Movistar with the big green M on his back. Just behind him is indeed your man Rodriguez as well. Plenty of options. What can Gilbert do today as Rui Costa picks it up?
Tim Whelan still in here. Dan Martin, the Irishman from Garmin Sharp, also in this very, very select group. And Sammy Sanchez. So BMC, the only team as far as I can see, with 2 cards to play left here. I think that is Albacini, so this could be great for Orica Greenedge. Can he get his first ever monument?
Well, let's have a look. The Swiss for the team from Down Under is going to be absolute top of the world in a few moments' time. And here goes the rolling attacks. This is absolutely phenomenal. Oh, it's
Sanchez.
not, is it? It is. It's Sanchez. Ben Hermans, I think it is. Hang on. Whoa! Oh, just almost sailed himself the wrong side of that corner. What a drive.
Oh, Sammy Sanchez, former Olympic champion, leads this select group underneath this very narrow tunnel. You have to say, from this group, Dan Martin, although he's not best placed right now, is one of the quicker riders, but it's going to be extremely hard to beat Alejandro Valverde. He sits there in 3rd place. You're right, Carlton. He's going to have the World Tour in the bag, but he wants to win this race. He's never won it before, and this is his best chance so far in his career.
Don't count out Philippe Gilbert, and just coming back onto his wheel right now is Rodriguez as well. Oh my goodness, 1.3 kilometres to go, and it's all down to this, and they're starting to look at each other, and Valverde must be wondering how on earth he's going to deliver this in this company.
Well, here goes Sammy Sanchez again, but he just can't get a gap on the rest of the riders. Albacini too, he's got a great turn of speed towards the end. It's anybody's game at the moment, but we could get a solo attacker still.
Solo attacker, well, from this lot, it's great company, and now's the time to deliver. Albacini looks fresh, he's holding on, and they're weaving all over the place. Now, the last turn, we remind you, is approaching. It's 250 metres only. They have left everybody for dead. Oh, and here we go. It's time to go.
Dan Martin goes 500 metres towards this finish line. They're all looking at each other. Can the Irishman win this Giro di Lombardia for the first time?
Oh, he was heartbroken last time by, and they're all looking at each other. It's all too late. Dan Martin's going to take this one. It's final bend time. The Irishman sails in. Stay on your bike, Dan. Oh, and he goes over to the other side of the road. He picks up, and he's going to deliver. It's all too late for everybody else. 150 metres. Valverde's not bothered about this. He's got the World Tour in the bag as far as the UCI World Rankings are concerned. And Dan Martin says, today's mine. Oh, superb stuff. Valverde takes the rest and takes the UCI World Tour as well. And we've got a tumble right at the very death at the back. Some big names in here. Frank Schleck also involved. Likewise, Wilco Kelderman and the rest. And Alberto Contador finds himself on the deck yet again. 6 hours, 25 minutes in the saddle. One man reigns supreme. He's the Irishman, Dan Martin. Well, what about that? Terrific racing. And he dishes out the hugs. And I'm not surprised. His team worked so well. Check this out for a rocket ship-like attack. Valverde thought about going and then thought about the UCI World Tour and thought, no. Everybody else plumb tuck it out and check that gap. Almost instantaneous. True use of afterburners by Dan Martin. Hit the final curve with 250 metres to go, and there was no catching him. Not this time. Well, Dan Martin has produced a fabulous result. We took a tumble amongst some of the big names further behind. Cadel Evans, his last race on European soil. Dan Martin, you'll be hard pushed to find a happier man in Italy tonight. He's handing out the thanks, and there we are. Good ride, says Valverde. A good ride by Valverde likewise. Here comes Dan Martin, just taking a chug on that water bottle. What a day, 260 kilometers, and they belong to this man.
Ci siamo, mi vedete?
Mic check.
Con il vincitore, uno splendido attacco, Daniel Martin, che tra l'altro è una sua caratteristica.
Well, Dan Lloyd's just waiting to speak to his namesake, Dan Martin. What a delivery it was. He chose his point of attack absolutely perfectly. And when some of the bigger names, the only man who looked willing to take him on and maybe capable was Valverde, and he backed out thinking about the UCI World Tour. And Dan made it happen. Bang.
In just a few minutes' time, the winner for Dan Martin of Garmin Sharp ahead of Alejandro Valverde of Movistar, Rui Costa of Lopre Merida, the run into the finish. A last-ditch attack by the Irish rider Daniel Martin to take the victory by 1 second from Alejandro Valverde. The average speed 40.4 kilometers an hour. And Paolo May giving you the presentation in a few minutes' time.
Here is how they finished. Dan Martin takes the day. Alejandro Valverde, nearest man to him, delivers the UCI World Tour ranking. There we are. Rui Costa next, ahead of Tim Vellens, Sammy Sanchez, Albacini, Philippe Gilbert, who's so terrific, and Perito Rodriguez also up there. This is the tumble late on. Trying to see who it was. A tangle. Two Androni riders involved, and unfortunately that was Warren Barguil also taken down for Giant Shimano. I think he was well out of it at that point anyway. We know our winner, and he is with Dan Lloyd.
Thank you, Carlton. Yeah, here with a very pleased Dan Martin. Oh, I should turn you around there. Right, we've got him. Dan, it's been a great season for you in terms of the Grand Tours with the top 10 at the Vuelta, but the one days have been frustrating, so that must have been What a huge relief, but an enormous joy as well.
Not really. I just love this race as well. I mean, it's one of my favourite races, and to get second and crash in the last corner last year, it's just incredible to win it. After all the bad luck this year, obviously last week I felt good and I crashed again, but I just always believed, and the team believed in me all the way, that the luck would change and we would get the big victory. And yeah, to win this, it's incredible.
You went over that last climb with a great group of about 10 guys. You got a fast finish on you. So what's going through your mind in that last 3Ks of how you play it?
I actually planned to attack on the last climb, but I couldn't get through. There's too many people, and the guys were going so hard anyway. So it's and then I saw Gilbert and Albacini. They're really fast, and obviously Alejandro as well. So Valverde, and I needed to try something, and yeah, the opportunity happened, and it's pretty similar to when they won the stage in the Vuelta. There's this much gap, and I just got through where Philippe was just closing it, and yeah, once I got the gap, yeah, it was so close to the line. I just had to go as hard as I could and not crash in the last corner like the age.
And finally, thoughts on the changes of course this year?
Lombardia is always a beautiful race. I mean, for me, Lombardia has always been about the lake, but it's also Bergamo. I mean, what a fantastic place to finish a race. It's just, as soon as I saw the finish on Friday, I just got goosebumps, and yeah, maybe that was a good sign, you know.
Dan, thanks very much indeed. Cheers.
Okay.
Such a difficult season for Dan Martin, but it's finished in a glorious manner. The man who took a tumble at the Giro d'Italia while riding in Ireland, of course. There you go. That's a guide for you. Some secrets being revealed, as you can see. Well, Dan Martin has succeeded where so often so many have failed. That tumble at the line amongst the chasers, not the main chasing contenders, I might add, but nonetheless some significant names in here as well. On Barguil taking a bit of a hit there. I'm just hoping that they're all okay.
Twice winner of this race, making his way back down the finishing straight. A fantastic champion of the last 2 years. We'll bring you the presentation in just a few moments' time.
What a day, and what a terrific day for Dan Martin. It had a terrific day, a great day. Here's your UCI World Tour rankings. Alejandro Valverde takes the title ahead of Alberto Contador. 66 points between the pair of them. Simon Gerrans, what a great year it's been for Guerrero in third place. And Rui Costa there in fourth ahead of Vincenzo Nibali, who did such great work, of course, on the Tour de France. Chris Froome in the top 10 here, just behind Daya Quintana. Christophe Perrault, Fabien Cancellara round out the top 10. Well, still some UCI racing to come, of course, in Beijing. Let's not forget, it's a big old season, but that man happy as anything. And he has taken the title. There's Dan Martin, just about to come to the stage. What a terrific day of racing we've had.
Popolare di Bergamo, Antonio Rossi, assessore allo sport, Regione Lombardia, Lara Magoni, consigliere regionale Lombardia.
Daniel, after your national anthem, go with the wine, okay?
A little backstage view of the guys being brought to the podium, as you can see. And because it is a monument, we have a full podium with 3 riders coming to the fore. Rui Costa comes to the podium, gave it a good go, the Lampre Merida rider, a great name, man has been on top of the world before, but right now he takes the flowers, third place today. The man who has taken the UCI World Tour ranking, leading that, Alejandro Valverde, couldn't be stopped by Alberto Contador, is about to come to the podium next.
Secondo posto nostro un corridore spagnolo desiderato per Moses Prima. L'applauso di Bergamo è tutto per
Alejandro Valverde, warmly welcomed. Well, the Vuelta never went his way, and this race either, in a certain regard as far as victory is concerned, but he's done a job here, and that's why he looks so pleased. UCI World Tour champion, he's not going to get headed from that. And so we wait our winner of the 108th running of Il Lombardia. His name is Dan Martin.
Vincitore assoluto del Lombardia 2014. Se lo aggiudica un corridore irlandese tesserato per Giro Sharp. Il vostro riconoscimento, applauso tutto per Daniel Martin.
Well, it was a big step, but he's on that top one. Fantastic. A man whose heart may have been broken, you might have thought, at the Giro d'Italia, taking a tumble in Ireland in the team time trial. Well, he's back from injury, and how. He's only gone and taken a monument, for goodness sake. Dan Martin is our winner.